You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they released. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And Charlie Nash is not here, unfortunately. He is trying to track down his lost love. He found a woman that looks just like his wife that died, and we'll get back to that later. But our super special guest returning to us from, again, the royalty of Letterboxd is what I'll say. Mitchell Beaupre is here. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. This is a more enticing prospect of a conversation than our last episode was.
Our last episode, if everybody had not listened to it, was about the 2016 film Collateral Beauty. Just Edward Norton just being like, I have to make Motherless Brooklyn. Yes, I'll be in Collateral Beauty.
He came back. He came back big.
Motherless Brooklyn, a movie I like.
That is, I mean, honestly, it's not terrible. It's a good time. It's a long movie. It's a very long movie.
It is.
Is it worth like selling your soul to like make Motherless Brooklyn?
Yes.
To just be in movies that even Edward Norton, like during the scene, he's like saying a line, you can just hear him going like, Jesus Christ, did the check clear? And they're just like, Ed, you're on cam.
He was like, does anybody remember when I had to make Italian Job and like
yeah, and it kicked ass. Remember that?
Yeah. He was like, let me just get back into that way of working. Italian Job is so much fun, though. I wanted a Mini Cooper so bad for so many years because of that Italian Job remake.
I wanted speakers that would blow off women's clothing and then I realized they don't exist. Seth Green lied to me. My father right now is probably watching Italian Job. It's probably on TNT.
I rewatched it earlier. The 4K came out earlier this year.
Oh, yeah.
I threw that shit on. And I watched it again after Donald Sutherland died because he's in the beginning of it. It's a really sweet performance.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure TNT was, no, it was literally today. He was watching Red or Red 2, and I was like, is this all that TNT plays?
That just got added to Netflix. It's in their like the top 10 like most watched right now.
And I was like, you're gonna watch it, right? You're gonna watch it, aren't you? And he was like, yeah.
I didn't know that Ed Norton is playing Pete Seeger in that Bob Dylan movie, the Shadow.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, too bad I'll never see that performance.
Yeah, I'm never gonna watch that movie.
No, unless Chalamet is doing like the most over the top, like Funny or Die version of Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
we're just like, hello everybody, my name is Bob Dylan.
I would watch that for sure.
Oh, I'm seeing it's categorized as a horror movie. You gotta watch it.
Oh man. Mitchell just starts adding the worst movies. It's just like, actually, this is a horror movie. I'm just like, no! Don't do this to me. I don't. Deadpool and Wolverine, I mean, when you think about it, it's kind of a horror. I was like, no.
I mean, I'm not even joking. There is a line in the first Deadpool movie where it's like, did I say this was a love story? It's a horror film. And it shows his face getting all messed up in the machine.
They say it. That's my receipt right there.
When we were talking about laughing in theaters and whatnot, imagine me seeing that in a theater and just everybody is just rolling down the aisles, just can't imagine anything be funnier, and I am half asleep. That would just be a time and a half.
It's crazy these days. People used to really react to like trailers. Like you would hear discussion during trailers or whatever. You know, people were like, oh, that looks good, like whatever. People, I feel like, don't really, at least from my experience, don't really react to trailers that much anymore. Like I never feel like excitement or whatever when I'm in a theater and like the trailers are going, but like this year, every time that Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, like that is the only time that I've like felt like reaction from people, like people laughing at trailers or whatever, like being hype. And I'm just like, this really is the country that we're in. Like this movie is going to make $1 billion, like easy.
Yeah. Yep.
And it did.
Well, I think what we can do though right now, which is great, is that we can go to YouTube right now and watch trailer reactions where someone pulls a face in the thumbnail next to the movie.
That's how I know. That's how I know what it's going to be like, what my reaction is going to be to the trailer by seeing their reaction in the thumbnail.
The only reactions I see is if it's like a horror movie, and I'll hear some couples, like the guy talking to his lady, being like, "You want to see that?" Because you know she wouldn't. Like, hilarious.
We gotta watch it to see if like the Speak No Evil trailer reaction is a guy like covering his mouth so that he's not speaking evil.
That would be funny if, like, there were YouTubers that reacted to that trailer every time that they saw it in theaters. It's just like, speak no evil, trailer reaction, 8th time. That kid is still doesn't have a tongue, man. Oh, man.
The crazy thing about that, too, is in the original, like, him not having a tongue is, like, a huge reveal. Like, I remember seeing that at Sundance and being like, oh, shit, that kid doesn't have a fucking tongue. That's why he wasn't talking this whole movie. The trailer, they show him, like, doing the scissors in front of it, like, 2 times in the trailer.
In case
like,
you didn't get it, this kid
doing?
does not have a fucking tongue.
Absurd.
Listen to Cotton Eye Joe, why not? Today we're talking about special effects from 1984. It's released in the U.S. November 16th, 1984. Budget I could not find, although Larry Cohen did say it was one of the lowest budgets he ever worked with. Which, if this is a lower budget than Perfect Strangers, and this
That would
movie
be interesting
looks,
to me, yeah.
which I can't imagine that, because this movie looks a lot better, feels like the money is more well spent, has a lot more set pieces and shit, but apparently, yeah. Don't know the opening weekend overall gross at all. Top 5 films the weekend, they're the same as last week. Check out Oh God, You Devil, I guess. Number 1 song in the U.S. and Canada, it's Wham Fever. It's not Last Christmas, it's Still Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Plot description from Google. A filmmaker played by Eric Bogosian kills a model played by Zoe Lund on camera and then makes a movie about it with her husband played by Brad Wren and a lookalike. For either one of these movies, I don't think I read the plot. This was a little bit easier to be like, oh, so this is what the movie's about. I mean, it's weird, but this is what this is about. Okay. Yeah, written and directed by Larry Cohen. We went over him. Is there anything that I didn't mention in the last episode that Larry Cohen directed or wrote that we want to shout out?
The Ambulance is a fun one that I shouted it out on the last episode, but that is a very fun movie, and that's like one where
Is that
the
Eric
movie,
Roberts?
like, Eric Roberts is just unhinged in that movie. I mean,
Eric Roberts unhinged? No way.
Well, and it's one of those performances that's like, it's so weird. Like, and it's, you know, in some of these Cohen movies and everything, it's like, oh, this performance is like, it's not great because it's just like a little flat and everything. I don't know that the Eric Roberts is like a conventional good performance in the Ambulance, but it is not for lack of energy. I mean, it changes like not from scene to scene, but shot to shot, where he'll be like saying, "Yeah, man, that's cool," and then in the next shot he'll be like, "Ah!" Like he'll be like shooting at someone. It's so bizarre. But yeah, that's a really fun one. I like that one a lot.
I need to see that. It's been on my watch list for a long time.
Cellular was one of the later movies that he wrote. I watched that when I was a teenager. Yeah.
That was like one of my favorite movies when it came out. Like it is like such like a tight like programmer from that time period. I love like it's got this fun like chase mystery kind of element, like a detective sort of like almost like Chris Evans in it is almost like I just love movies where like pedestrians are put into situations where they have to be like detectives, and then at the same time you have this like really cool like chamber kind of thriller with Kim Basinger like in the attic wherever she's locked up, like, you know, trying to get access to the phone and like whatever, and like having to navigate, you know, the guys like not getting caught by the guys or whatever. That's like a really fun movie, like such an easy watch. I think
I haven't seen it in years. I should rewatch it. And that's interesting you point out the sort of pedestrian thing. That is like the pedestrian protagonist. That is the thing that Cohen is interesting about. Like, it's like not just like ordinary people and everything, like, but also like they're not always likable and anything, like, and like just like being thrust into extraordinary circumstances that like sort of force them to like reckon with themselves and maybe rise above like their usual sort of shitty neutral and everything. Like, I mean, Phone Booth you talked about last week, that's like Colin Farrell saying like, I'm a fucking piece of shit. Maybe I could be better when I get out of this. But, and like in the Ambulance, Eric Roberts is like introduced like harassing a woman, saying like, why don't you go out with me? And then like the rest of the movie is like, he like tries to redeem himself by like uncovering like this conspiracy involving like medical science and everything. And you know, I mean, Cellular, it's like, I mean, the big line of the trailer is like Jason Statham going like, "Who are you? Why are you involved?" I just answer my phone, man.
Yeah.
Like,
Even special effects, you know, to that point too. Like it starts with Brad Wren and Zoe Lund like having this like marital dispute because she's stripping and he's like not down for that, and then like they get into this huge argument and she runs out and runs to the home of Chris Neville, who Eric Bogosian plays, and like gets murdered. And so like the movie is him, Brad Wren, his character's Keith, right, is the name of his character.
Yes. No, I thought it was Keith like EITH, but that's for me. The twist for me in the movie was revealing Heath is spelled EEFE.
But like
Big twist.
The movie is him sort of like I mean, he's grappling with the loss of her and like processing that or whatever, but it's also like him. He's like, this is like the craziest way of him trying to process his like guilt too, because like he, you know, the dispute between them. So it's that same thing that you were just talking about, Bryden, of like kind of reckoning with your own faults and like trying to like rise above and like, you know, process that idea or whatever. There's not really like an attempt at any kind of like moral gain for him here in the same way. That's something like a cellular or like a phone booth is, of like them trying to kind of like better themselves. But it does feel like he's like kind of grappling with his like faults as a human being too.
Yeah, I will say I do like the ending of this movie. It's like, oh no, he's gonna like repeat the same cycle that he was doing like at the beginning of the movie. It's really grim. But yeah,
a lot. I mean, a lot of this movie is like, it's like super dark, and I think that that's something that I really like about it. I mean, the premise like itself of like this guy making a movie about how your wife was murdered and casting you to play yourself in it. Like, it's like really twisted. And I think that's fun. It reminded me a lot of like the much better movie, Abel Ferrara's Dangerous Game, and like sort of the meta mechanics of like that movie. And like, so like I kept thinking of that while watching this and thinking like, oh, Dangerous Game is a lot better than this. But like it does.
I watched that for the first time like 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, that movie goes hard as hell.
Like the scene where he's going off on Madonna, like holy fucking shit.
Yeah,
like
James Russo is the he's so fucking good.
Then I watched Bad Lieutenant for the first time. That kind of broke my brain.
Oh shit, really? That was the first time watch? Yeah, that's.
Then I watched it again 24 hours later.
Yeah, that's Keitel on Overdrive, man.
Yeah, because that was very, very more cold on Abel Ferrara, and then I watched that, and I was just like, I don't love Bad Lieutenant, but I'm very interested in it, and then definitely liked it a lot more the second time I watched it, and then Dangerous Game is, wow, just fucking... No wonder he never made a movie in Hollywood after that, because they were just like, whoo.
Yeah. I think those two, Dangerous Game and Special Effects, are, like, interestingly in conversation in the way of, like, breaking down these mechanics of a Hollywood movie making. And I think special effects, there's a lot of talk in it. Bogosian even has like the line about Dorothy Stratton and like how, you know, how you become, how like you don't have to be talented to become famous, you just have to get murdered. And like how somebody like that has become like infamous based on just like the murder or whatever. And like that's a story, right? And I think that in this movie, the crux of it being the making of this movie about a murder, about like an unsuccessful actress and whatever, it is like an interesting sort of metatextual commentary on stuff like movies like Star 80 and stuff like that. And so I think that there's a lot going on in there. I don't know how successfully like Larry Cohen like pulls off kind of like the navigating of like those themes for me. But I at least appreciate that like he's kind of putting out like those themes and those observations out there.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of it is just like makes you think, right? Because it starts out Neville's gotten thrown off of a set for like overspending on a movie, so it's a lot of like very, very much Hollywood director doesn't know what he's doing, and he would kill to get the right movie and shit like that.
I do love that like the first like 30 minutes of this movie, like every like side character that you run into, they're like. And he's like, oh, I'm trying to find Chris Neville. And it's like the taxi cab. And he's like, Chris Neville, you mean that fucking hack director? And it's like,
okay.
Everybody's just like, oh, the biggest piece of shit that's ever lived. Like the most untalented fucking garbage filmmaker that's ever lived. And it's like, it feels like if like the cab driver, like you get into a cab and your cab driver is like talking about I'm trying to think of like a comp for like because he doesn't seem like a big name director, right? Like, you know, like these days maybe your cab driver would know still like maybe like Martin Scorsese is or whatever, but like Chris Neville seems like he's like I like not even Ari Aster, maybe like somebody like really like
it'd be like getting into a cab and being like, do you know where Dave Frankel is? You'd be like, Dave Frankel, that hack.
Yeah, like somebody like just totally
Jerry
like...
and Marge barely went large in that film.
Exactly, yeah. It was like so funny to be like, how many times people were just shitting on this dude like through the opening sections of the movie, and I was like, yeah, honestly, if I'm getting that kind of heat just from like nobodies on the street, like maybe I would fucking kill somebody to get it. Like maybe I would be that desperate to make something happen.
And at the same time, like, I think it's funny how, like, Zoe Lynn's line, like, getting the idea to name drop Chris Neville and leaving the phony message and everything just by seeing, like, his name on the marquee. And then that ends up being, like, that lie that she tells ends up, like, fucking over Brad Pitt over in the end. I think that's, like, really, like, kind of a funny twist on that. But it is, like, thinking, like, so this guy's like bombing, but also this theater is like apparently having like a retrospective on the films of Chris Neville. Like, how many movies has this guy directed? Like, it's very odd.
That shit. Yeah, that's a really good point actually.
Yeah, I don't know what the comp would be like for 1984 director. Be like
Michael Cimino?
Maybe. Trying to think. I feel like the only people that would be like, oh, Michael Cimino, that hack, would be like people from like United Artists. It wouldn't be a fucking New York City.
Yeah, like
cab
Cimino at
driver.
least still at that time has like I feel like Chris Neville doesn't have a deer hunter, you know, to his name or whatever to like hang his hat
That we
on.
know of.
That we know of. Yeah, he might have directed The Deer Hunter too.
Oh, that would kick ass. Just about a guy being sad for 3 hours, which is basically what the Deer Hunter
My
already
friend
is.
fucking shot himself. I don't know what to do.
Let's all sing in this bar for 3 hours. Okay, starring Zoe Lund, credited as Zoe Tamerlis, as Andrea Wilcox / Elaine Bernstein. Prior to this, Miss 45 in 1981, and after this, Bad Lieutenant in 1992.
Great
Just
movie.
Bangers. Oh my God. Get the people on the phone and make them re-release Miss 45.
Yeah,
you
that
got the
movie
power.
rules.
Eric Bogosian as Neville. Prior to this, Born in Flames in 1983, and I believe this is his second performance. After this, Talk Radio in 1988, Witch Hunt in 1994, which is a Paul Schrader TV movie that is not good. A Few Voices and Beavis and Butthead Do America in 1996. Great film, his best movie. Gossip in 2000, never mind, this is the best. Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle in 2003. Charlie is Here in Spirit, 61 episodes of Law and Order Criminal Intent, and Uncut Gems in 2019.
I will say, I was thinking about his line reading in Uncut Gems about looking. He's like, I heard you resurface your fucking swimming pool, and I was just thinking about that line because it's a great line reading. But in this movie, he's like, I mortgaged my fucking townhouse like to make this movie.
And he takes a dive into a swimming pool in this movie.
Yes, he does.
Have either of y'all seen... that's funny. Have either of y'all seen Talk Radio?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm like not a big Oliver Stone person. That's kind of the one that I like as somebody who's not a big Oliver Stone person. Like Talk Radio is like one of my favorite movies. It like absolutely slaps. And like I think that there was a run in like kind of the late 80s, early 90s of like movies that like the main characters were like radio DJs, like the Alan Rudolph
Pump
movie
Up the
Choose Me
Volume.
is really good. Pump Up the Volume is really good. There's a Dolly Parton movie, I think it's called Straight Talk from like 1992 that she's a radio DJ in. I miss movies about radio DJs. Like I feel like it's a cool profession to have a main character be.
Did the movie Private Parts kind of just put a kibosh on that being a movie device?
Yeah, and I feel like that. I mean, like radio now these days, it's like, you know, how much is it like sort of in the culture the way that it was back then? But like I think talk radio kind of is like, in terms of the quality of those movies, like about that profession specifically, I feel like it captures it like really tremendously, and it is like the like apex of like Eric Bogosian, like as sort of like melding his persona with like a character. Like he's just like the like acidicness of that character is off the charts. It's such a blast. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, and like Stone is like, you know, right there with him, like, you know, cranking up the visuals, like, you know, having like a Dutch angle, like following him into his room as Bad to the Bone plays. So good.
Yeah, that movie rock and rolls.
Mitchell, you say you're not a big Oliver Stone fan. I see here you gave 5 stars to W. What was that about? Big savages.
I just
person?
love W, man. That's more for the guy than it is for Stone. I just love that man. Love anything about that man.
Honor the film, honor the Natural Born Killer is a movie that I that's my reaction to that movie. I both hate and kind of fucking adore that movie. Brad Renn as Keith Waterman. It's a terrible fucking name. The only trivia I can find is this was written under the title The Cutting Room. Get it?
Honestly, I kind of like that title.
That makes more sense than special effects.
Yeah.
Also easier to search because you just look up special effects 1984. It just shows me people trying to do special effects in movies in 1984.
The Terminator over and over again.
Yeah. And does this New Line Cinema film have Lin Shaye? No. We're on a cold streak. Where is she at? I mean, let's see. What's next? What do we have left after this?
It's the Nightmare movies, right? Isn't that like all we're doing after this?
And Buddies. So.
Right. Well, I know she's not in Buddies. I watched that last year.
No. Yeah, she's in Nightmare 1. I don't remember if she's in any of the sequels, but don't worry, she's coming back, folks. Oh no, I do have more trivia, which this is phenomenal trivia. One of the headshots Neville and Detective Delroy look through is Dustin Hoffman as Dorothy Michaels and Tootsie. Hilarious. Just hilarious. I actually did pause the movie last night, and I was probably being like, I don't want to watch this. And it was on that shot, and I was just like, oh man, comedy has been invented.
I'm looking for Mary Jean. You see Mary Jean?
There's no Mary Jean here.
This is Christopher Neville.
Okay, cut.
He's famous for directing big-budget movies. But the movies he makes at home are a lot more interesting and not very nice. This is Mary Jean. She's dying to be a movie star.
I'm looking for Mary Jean.
Chris Neville is about to make Mary Jean's dream come true. Special effects.
I want that reel of film.
Who says I've got it?
The police.
Make dirty pictures.
Bastard!
Cut. Print.
Special effects. Only death is for real. From New Line Cinema.
So yeah, that's all the trivia. So initial thoughts. Yeah, this is better than Perfect Strangers. Has a better idea. I mean, it does have Eric Bogosian, but I feel like he needs to go a little bit harder. But also, he has the absolute wet blanket, nothing of an actor that is Brian Wren in this, and I'm very sorry. He is giving absolutely nothing in this movie other than being mild-mannered or punching dudes because they mentioned that he fucked his wife. There's a scene where they bring in Zoe Lund as Elaine, I believe, is the woman that looks just like her. And he's like, no, her fingernails didn't look like that. You gotta make them different. And Brad Wren, like, that should be like a big, like, how do you know that? And he's just like muttering. He's just like, how do you know that? How do you know what her fingernails look like? And he's just like, get him off the set, get him out of here. And he's like, hold on, I had a question. Like, he's so nothing in this, but like, you do not feel like he's gonna be like, oh, he doesn't even kill Neville. I mean, he gets killed by happenstance. I mean, he does throw a light in there, but I don't know if he meant to throw the light. And then Zoe Lund's just like, we gotta turn the lights back on. You can't be fighting Eric Bogosian with the lights off, and then he just dies. Yeah. At the start, I'm pretty sure all of Zoe Lund's lines are like incredibly overdubbed, like very badly, I think. I don't think you can strangle somebody with a roll of film so bad that you cut through their throat, but that is a cool shot. But I don't think that shit would be damn near breaking their neck in half. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't know, man. You ever gotten a paper cut? Imagine that on your neck.
And imagine Eric Bogosian would just wanted to strangle the shit out of you. You know what that would feel like? I mean, that is cool. I don't get Neville's murderous reign. I understand why people murder people, but I don't know why he kills that guy Because is that the guy that's going through the footage that he shot of him killing?
Yeah,
Zoe
because he
Lund?
wasn't supposed to see it, I think, when he was processing it, but he's like, oh, when I saw the rose on the pillow, I just had to see where that went and everything. And he says, like, and then he's like, well, maybe it'll end up on TV someday, or anything. Like, he makes some allusion to that, and maybe he's going to hold it over him, but Gosh is like, I gotta take care of this guy.
Yeah.
You just sleeper cell activated because I forgot this even happened and I watched this less than 24 hours. The fact that they're watching the footage of the film being shot and they're just like, wait a minute, is that a rose on the pillow? No, this guy definitely murdered Zoe Lund. I was like, what? What the fuck? How do you get to that fucking conclusion?
And it's like also just like perfect timing where it's like Bogosian's like watching the footage, like when that cop like comes to visit him, he's like watching the footage of the murder, and then like the cop like comes up behind him and he just like turns off the camera, like just like the perfect was like nothing to see here. It's like he just the equivalent of like your mom like comes up and like you close the bathroom window. Oh, I'm just doing my homework.
What is also funny is like the people, like their first thought is actually, oh, he murdered this woman, when it's just like. Your first thought would be like, this is a scene from a movie because he's a film director.
Yeah.
This isn't like
literally
Mute Witness.
filming a movie about this stuff. Yeah.
You know what kicks ass? Mute Witness.
I need to watch that. I
need to
have
see
that 4K, that Arrow 4K. I really need to watch that.
That's a good ass movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all my thoughts. Charlie said, I think it's kind of a mess, but it's also an interesting 80s riff on Hitchcock De Palma films, especially Vertigo, but I'd be lying if I said I'd rather be watching Body Double, which tackles the same themes and came out the same year.
Yeah, like almost the same time too. I feel like Body Doubles, this and Perfect Strangers were like late September. I feel like Body Double came out in October, so it would have been like a couple weeks after this. Yeah, so like a month after this, and like so people are like, oh, this was fine, and then like Body Double comes out and it's like, oh, that like is like fucking roll. That's like one of the greatest movies ever made.
But the thing about Body Double that's interesting is like that was like hated at the time. Like,
Yeah.
didn't they get like a bunch of Razzie nominations? Like I know Ebert liked it, but like that was like De Palma has talked about, I think, how like a lot of his movies at the time they come up, people were like, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like the Razzies would have nominated the lead singer of like Frankie Goes to Hollywood for like worst first time performance or some dumb shit like the Razzies do for that
Yeah.
movie.
They had it out for De Palma at that point too, because didn't Michelle Pfeiffer get nominated for Scarface? Am I remembering that right?
That sounds like some shit they would pull.
Yeah, it does.
It's just like, yeah, no, you're definitely right about that, Brian, and that like Body Double is not like, that's one of those ones that's kind of picked up the esteem over time. But yeah, I think this one, like the first like half was interesting to me. Those kind of things I was talking about earlier, like the more like commentary on the industry and on like art and artist commerce and like the sort of exploitation of like crime for that I think is like compelling. And I think the riffs on like it's so clearly is riffing on Vertigo, obviously, and then like but doing it in a more of like a De Palma-y kind of way, like aesthetically, and I think like that's fine, it's enjoyable. Like for those reasons, I was definitely enjoying it more than Perfect Strangers, but it did kind of like, it still felt more like to what Charlie said, like watching it, I still was feeling more like, oh, I would rather be watching Body Double right now. I would rather be watching Blowout. Like I would rather be watching Vertigo. And then
I'd rather be watching Obsession, which I like more than Vertigo.
Yeah, Obsession's really fucking good too. Which Obsession, is De Palma's like basically literal riff on Vertigo. And so like this all felt to me like very like De Palma light kind of stuff, and that's just the first half, and then you get to the second half, and I feel like the second half, like I just really felt like the rubber was coming off the wheels a bit. Like I was really losing interest. The story was just kind of like petering out for me in a lot of ways, and so it just sort of like the length of it, I started really feeling there's only so much that it could kind of be doing without, because it's so surfacey level observations on these things. Like I just felt like it wasn't diving deeper than those initial kind of ideas were that I felt like it was exploring like early on, if that makes sense. So it didn't feel like it was like unraveling more and more layers to it. It just kind of felt like it like hit a plateau and then just sort of like hit that level for me, and it kind of stayed there.
Bryden, what do you think?
Yeah, I liked this. I think it was my enjoyment of this, I think, was influenced by the fact that I watched Perfect Strangers like right before it, and is not that engaged by it, that one. But
That is
like,
a shot chaser right there.
yeah, but it's interesting how like this does feel like it feels like Cohen, like I don't want to seem like I'm an expert on Cohen because I've only seen like 5 of the movies he directed, but like it is interesting how I watched this stuff as research for when we were doing this like last month, and that's one of the most interesting threads in that movie is like how like the people who eat the stuff, it's like they're more pliable to like to being like conforming and everything, and I feel like it's most interesting when it's exploring that through like the perspective of like a kid in a suburban household and everything. We're saying like eat the stuff, you'll be more like us and everything, and like it's like sort of like this nightmare vision of like a suburban family, and I feel like that's being explored here with the Brad Renn well, kind of like where it's Brad Renn and Eric Bogosian are both like battling over like controlling like who gets to control like this woman in their life and everything, or these 2 women in their life, and like it's like they both want them to play like different roles. I think Bogosian wants Zoe Lund to be the sex pot, and Brad Renn wants to, well, I mean he has sex with Zoe Lund in this movie too, but also he wants her to be like the traditional wife and mother. It doesn't really make sense that they hook up with that Renn and Lund. Yeah, they don't have chemistry, but that's also one thing I would say. And it's interesting you mentioned Star 80, another movie that I think is like really that's like based on a true story, so it's obviously playing off like stuff that happened in real life and everything. But that's an interesting movie where I feel like that movie is very critical of all the men in that movie who like in their own predatory ways are very controlling of like they want to have this woman fit this perfect constructed image that they have of them all in different ways, and then like punish her for when she doesn't fit into that image. And I feel like that this movie, it's like I think it's interesting how Cohen presents it as in like the sort of meta narrative of like it's like fitting the happy ending of a Hollywood film and everything, but like having like very eerie music play over it, whereas like and having Lund's sort of like frozen face and everything at the end of the movie, it's like you see she's trapped once again in like this role by Renn, who sees himself as a nice guy but is like just like, I mean, he's not a murderer, but he's like just as like controlling and shitty as like the other men in the movie, and like I found that critical element really interesting. But yeah, I also feel like just on a style level, I feel like this is much more engaging than Perfect Strangers. I mean, like all the cool mirror. I mean, like with like the image of like people like playing different parts or being forced into different parts. You have like lots of mirror shots, lots of reflections. Interesting how like you're like, and like some creepy scenes where like you're going in between like what's like a sex scene that's like being filmed and versus like the murder scene that happens near the start of the film. You have like some Dutch angles and striking like use of shadows and red lighting when Bogosian is going villainous. Yeah, and like I think that the fact that you have like compelling actors on like in occupying like some major roles in this movie, and even like major parts of this movie, and also like even on the fringes, like Eric Bogosian and Zoe Lund, like that definitely makes up for that makes up a much more interesting cast than the Perfect Strangers, where it's like I feel like there's like no one really bringing it in that film. Here I feel like there's more interesting faces and energies coming across here. Bogosian being very smug, and like Zoe Lund. I mean, I will say she's not given a whole lot. I mean, it's interesting. I guess it's because like her character. She says that like she's played like a lot of different parts. She's not even really sure of who she is in the movie and everything. But like I feel like we still don't really get quite a read on her. I think the movie is sympathetic to her, like trying to like break free and be her own person. But I don't really feel like the movie does a great job of defining who she is. And also she's just like, I mean, yeah, it's a shame we didn't get more performances from her, because she is just like such a. Even like just her line deliveries. I mean, Kevin, you said that she's like, it sounds like she's dubbed at the start and everything, but even like when you first meet her, when she's like working at the Salvation Army, she's like speaking as very like clipped, almost like classic Hollywood sounding sort of line delivery. Like she almost sounds like she's in like a screwball comedy and everything. It's very bizarre, but like very compelling to hear. I don't know. I feel like there's interesting stuff going on in this movie, but I can understand how like there's some of the performances could just be punched up a little bit more. But yeah, no,
you were talking about all the camera tricks this movie has. I would be remiss to not mention whenever Neville at the start is by the pool by Zoe Lund, and he's like, we should do a slow dissolve to my bedroom, and I was like, shut the hell up. Just get out of here, dude.
He just writing like, how can I fit it, like how do directors talk, how do they just they mentioned like filming techniques, right, like in casual everyday dialogue.
I did find a little bit more information on this movie. It was originally called The Cutting Room. He wrote it in 1967. And at the time, Cohen had been interested in optioning his screenplay for a movie called Daddy's Gone a Huntin' in 1969 to Alfred Hitchcock, but instead Universal hired Mark Romson to direct the film. Took place in 1984 in New York City, and Cohen said that of the leads, he said they were, quote, all highly offbeat people who lived in strange basements, had no money, and were highly talented. That's how I want to be described.
I could see Zoe Ludd and Eric Bogosian both fitting that description for sure. Zoe Ludd really is, like, to Brian's point, she's such an interesting actor, and I feel like Abel Ferrara utilized her really well. I agree with Brian that I don't know if she's like her particular assets are utilized like as effectively here. It does feel like, and maybe this is intentional, like so much of our understanding of her is what the other characters are projecting onto her, but in a way like that kind of makes it so the movie is doing that as well, and not like it's like robbing her of any kind of like agency or like interiority as well, which can be a little bit frustrating. Like maybe the story would have been a little bit more compelling if she felt like she was her own like dimensional being, as well as, you know, what these guys were trying to morph her into, rather than her just kind of being this object. And what we were seeing was like their kind of power struggle like with her. I did enjoy the scene where second character Elaine, right, is like introduced, and it's like Keith goes to like the Salvation Army to like get his like dead wife's clothes, and like she's working there, and he's like, hey, I'm just looking for my dead wife's clothes. And she's like, like, what the fuck did you just say? And then she's like, oh, never mind. I don't need to know. And I thought that was like a funny. There's like little funny moments in this like that I enjoyed.
I will also say it's wild that this movie came out in 1984, and like when we first meet Zoe Ludd as she goes by two different names as the first character, Mary Jane or and Andrea, but like the blonde hair is sort of like with the curls, and the sweater with like sort of the V shape down the back, and the fact that her character has like a son that she's run away from. I was thinking like she looks and also is characterized like Nastasia Kinski in Paris, Texas, which comes at the same year. It's so weird, and I think that was like, I mean, Cohen couldn't have known because that's the same year, but it's just, I was just thinking like, this is like just such a weird coincidence. It's so bizarre. But anyways, that's
with Zoe Ludd also with her Abel Ferrara movies. I don't know off the top of my head if she wrote or helped write Miss 45.
I think it was just Bad Lieutenant.
Bad Lieutenant she wrote, and it has said that Abel Ferrara basically just slapped his name on it. Yeah. But she definitely felt that for pretty much every other role that she's been in, she was not in many movies, that she was involved somehow behind the scenes.
I wouldn't be surprised if she had like a lot more to do with like writing Miss 45 and like just didn't get a credit for it.
Probably.
Yeah. But wasn't she only like 17 when she was in that movie? She was like, I mean, that's the thing. She died so young, but like, you know, I feel like she was also famous like at a young age. She was 19, or I think she was like 19 when it came out. So she was probably like 17 or 18 when they filmed it, right? Which is crazy. Yeah. She's almighty. She's also very good in Bad Lieutenant. I love her like two scenes. She's so great in Bad Lieutenant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's my lighter?
There,
it's like, you have your lighter?
Have it.
You know, where's my? It's like, yeah, she's just like, you know, fumbling, looking around. I like her sort of stone energy in that.
Also seeing here, in the book Larry Cohen, The Radical Allegories of an Independent Filmmaker, reach that word count, scholar Tony Williams notes that the film, quote, never got proper theatrical distribution and went straight to video. We should not be covering this movie.
Scrap it. Just chuck it.
So, yeah, you could go see Perfect Strangers in theaters and you were just like, more, and then go to your local video store and pick up the new Larry Cohen film.
I feel like this is the movie that's more deserving of a theatrical release.
1,000,000,000%.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like Perfect Strangers feels like the kind of movie that you would like get as like a special feature on the like special effects Blu-ray. Like you could watch this other Larry Cohen movie,
like in the way that like The Underneath by Steven Soderbergh is like the special feature on the King of the Hill Criterion.
Yeah. The Underneath, it's kind of a good movie. I like that movie.
I kind of like that one too.
I know Soderbergh like fucking hates it, but I think it's good.
his video talking about that is very funny. It's like, I know the movie's in trouble when like it's 5 minutes in, the fucking credits are still going.
When is that Blu-ray box set that he's been talking about for like 5 years coming? I need Schizopolis on Blu-ray.
I want to see that new Kafka cut.
That as well, yeah. Because I watched the theatrical version and I was just like, well, you tried.
Yeah, not strong.
But Schizopolis, I love Schizopolis. That movie doesn't give a shit. You just watch a director be like, well, I had fame at one point and now I'm just going to burn that all to the ground. And also, special effects has a dope ass fucking poster. Like,
yeah,
that should have been in movie theaters. Look at that thing. It's great.
Is that the one with like the head above like the skyscrapers and everything?
Yeah, and then
it's
there's
got like the
body
film
in the
reel.
water. Yeah, looks cool. Doesn't lie like the poster for Perfect Strangers. Zoe London's head is actually that big.
You're like, go to the Perfect Strangers poster and you just speak to it directly. Wish you weren't a liar. It's just funny again watching like this back to back with Perfect Strangers where the cops are like so ineffective at like solving crimes and everything, where like the one cop gets like, just completely sidetracked by like being a police consultant on Bogosian's movie, and then there's like one partner at least has a good sense of just like, we have 5 other cases we need to work on, stop fucking around here. But then at the end of the movie when he's like staking out like Bogosian's apartment, he's like locked out of the door, and then he's like, I guess he just gives up, that is like, I can't get in. Like he just doesn't do anything to help out.
Yeah, incompetent police is like a very recurring theme in Larry Cohen's movies, I feel, from like watching a couple of them.
Maniac Cop.
And it's
Yeah.
it's very fun. It's nice to see that. I did also like to the point, like unintentional humor was found in the Bradrin performance, and like the escalation of him sort of like losing his mind as he's like participating in this movie where he's playing himself, and like there are scenes where he's like trying to like act, and then he'll like the character is trying to act, and then he'll like somebody will do something and he's like, no, I didn't do it like that, don't make me do it like that, and then he'll lose his mind and like freak out, and like, but it's Brad Renn, so like the acting is like absolutely brutal, like it is like so like wooden, like shouting. So that was fun, that was nice to see. I enjoyed those.
I also don't think that if you were like brought in because like, yeah, you definitely murdered your wife, and then some movie director's like, don't worry, I got this, and they're just like, all right, we'll leave him in your hands, I guess.
Yeah.
Also, it's just like, why are you so interested in doing a story about my wife that just died like 3 days ago? You already have a script. Apparently, you already have a script. What's going on here, man? Why are you so involved in this? But instead, Brad Renn's just like, huh. Interesting. And
This
then
is my big break.
Yeah. I will say that the guy that they get to be Brad Renn in the movie, that's just fantastic. They made him look like a fucking dweeb. My man has like David Lynch ass hair. Like, oh man, it's very funny. He was like, oh, you knew her. I don't know how to say this, but I definitely fucked your dead wife. And he's like, wait.
Yeah, I did. I think I said it off mic. Like, I felt like the casting of Brad Renn in this movie is better than him in Perfect Strangers, because in this he's like playing like a total cuck who's just like getting shit on like the entire movie. And for, I don't know Brad Renn, I don't know who this man is like as a human being, but his energy is very like cuck energy, and so I feel like he's
He'll
definitely
be happy to hear that.
well. Yeah.
I mean, he's that in Smithereens too, where it's like he's saying, "Hey, I could let you like live in my van. You seem really cool." And the main girl's like, "Yeah. I gotta go hit this rock star up. He's way more interesting to me than you."
Yeah.
Also, it's very. I mean, we're just talking about this too. It's so funny in Perfect Strangers when he's first meeting with Anne Carlisle, and she says like, you don't look like anyone else. I'm like, this guy looks like so many other white guys. Like,
Yeah.
it's like it is the thing of like, if you showed this guy to be in a lineup, I would not be able to ID him.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I've never seen this guy before in my life.
Which is one of the crazy things about Perfect Strangers. Like, bro, you could just get away with it. Like, you morph into a crowd so easily.
Be like,
That reminds me of one of my favorite Ignatiy Vishnevetsky reviews of the Sam Worthington vehicle, The Shack, where he says that Sam Worthington should become a career criminal because no one will remember his face.
Damn. Yeah, that's good.
The Shack. Check it out, I guess. Not the Sam Worthington vehicle, Man on a Ledge. What is he doing on that ledge? Why is he on that ledge? I don't know.
He's an
He's a
man.
distraction for the heist that Jamie Bell's constructing.
Oh, I didn't know Jamie Bell was involved in these shenanigans. Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're partners.
Who else is
They're
in Man on the
brothers
Ledge?
in the movie. Yeah.
I don't
Isn't,
know. Anthony Mackie's in that, I think.
Yes, and Titus Welliver is a cop who has, during one scene where he's beating up Jamie Bell says, "You hit like a girl. Where you from? Jersey?" Welliver goes, "I'm from the Bronx."
Oh, my
and
word.
slugs him
Oh,
in the face.
no.
Stuck in my
Really?
head for the
Titus
last 12 years.
Welliver is a cop. Who could possibly believe that?
Is it Man on the Ledge or Man on a Ledge?
Man on a ledge.
Man on the Ledge. Oh,
Ed
and
Harris
It's not
is
the
in it?
Ledge.
Yes, of course. And it's directed by
Asger
Asger
Leth.
Leth, who is the son of Jorgen Leth, subject of the Lars von Trier movie The Five Obstructions.
Oh, that's crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, Edward Burns is in this movie. What are we talking about?
Classic.
Yes, of course.
Confidence is own.
I see that Dan is trying to join the chat. I'm declining that. Yeah, what else we got about special effects?
It's about as good as Man on a Ledge, I would say. I would put
Okay.
them about equal.
If you got into a New York taxi cab and it's just like, can you take me to Asger Leth's wherever he's at? And you'd be like, oh, that hack.
That son of a bitch.
That hack on a ledge.
They got a retrospective of all of his movies playing at Film Forum right now. What a hack.
He has like 2 movies. It's a short
He does it. I was
retrospective.
looking at the Wikipedia page for Man on a Ledge. Like it doesn't even like link to he doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
That's
Ooh,
never,
rough. You
that's
know
never
rough
what you
when-
want.
That's pretty
yeah.
tough.
Oh, is he just starting out? No. He's finishing out.
He's on the ledge because nobody will link his other
He
movies. on
directed 2
Wikipedia.
movies in 2012, Man on a Ledge and something called Move On, and that's it. That is all of them. Move On
And
with
then
Mads
that's what people were
Mikkelsen.
telling him.
Yeah.
That's what people were telling him when Man on Ledge didn't do very well. They're like, move on, Asger.
Move
Stop
on,
directing.
buddy.
The poster for Move On Letterboxd has a advertisement for T-Mobile
I'm losing
on
my
it.
mind at this poster.
What the hell?
The tagline on the poster says "The road movie inspired by you."
What is this? Move On is a road movie. This is about special effects. Move On is a road movie like no other because it's inspired by film fans from all over Europe. This breathtaking movie, directed by Asger Leth, features Mads Mikkelsen on a secret mission in 8 episodes, each taking place in a different European country.
What
What?
the fuck is going on?
What's this nonsense about Letterboxd putting TV on here?
One of the Letterboxd reviews says, "Why did I thirst watch a T-Mobile movie?" Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash 91. Once again, thank you for listening.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description